Check out these new Flux glazes. Hi, Marie here from Pottery Crafters. I recently received 6 bottles of new Flux glazes from Amaco. I was told to do whatever I wanted with these glazes and just have fun with them. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Thank you, Amaco. These glazes are similar to Honey Flux. I love Honey Flux. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like. The new glazes are Flux Blossom, Moss Mist, Honeydew, Midnight Run, Cirrus Flow, and River Birch. All the supplies used in this video are listed for you below in the show notes. Here are a few quick tips before we get started. Wash your bisqueware with a clean, damp sponge to ensure the glaze bonds nicely to your piece. Make sure your hands are clean and dry, or wear gloves. I'm starting with Amaco Flux Blossom. Mix the glaze well. I'm using this drink mixer. It works great. This mixer gets to the bottom of the Amaco bottles, which is a big plus. I'll start with brushing on the first coat of this planter horizontally. This glaze is on the thin side, but going on smoothly. I'm trying not to have the glaze drip down on the side of the planter. I made this planter with Laguna Hawaiian Red clay. I think the dark color may give this pink color some depth. I'm trying out this new fan brush for the first time. I was eager to see how it lays on the glaze. Let this dry before applying a second coat. I'm brushing this coat on vertically. I'm quickly finding out I'm not a fan of this fan brush. I don't seem to have much control over the bristles on the planter. Let it dry and brush on a third coat. This time horizontally. Back to my favorite Transsun fan brush. I love these brushes. I've tried others, but keep going back to these. I can't recall losing any bristles, and I've had this first set for over 5 years. Let this dry and brush on a fourth coat. This time vertically. The soft bristles hold the glaze well and conform to my pottery. Let this dry. Because the glaze is thinner, I'm going to apply a fifth coat horizontally again, and a fourth coat on the inside. I want to see how much flow I can get and the difference between the top and bottom half of the planter. Let this dry and put it in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. And let's see how it turned out. It turned out pretty good. This Flux Blossom has a beautiful glossy pale pink color. The glaze flowed nicely with 5 coats. And on the inside, it did pool at the edge of the glazed area, but didn't move past it. That's good to know. And it doesn't run as much as the Amaco seaweed does. I like the contrast on the dark red clay. You can see that when applied thinly, the glaze produces a delicate but subtle pink hue that can add a touch of elegance to any pottery creation. I like how this glaze produces different colors, from a pale pink to a darker pink and a touch of peach, depending on the thickness of the application. Let's check out the next Flux glaze. The second Flux glaze is Moss Mist. Mix the glaze well, but I'm not using my drink mixer this time because of the tiny crystals in this glaze. So I'll just shake the bottle well. Apply the first coat horizontally. This planter is made with Amaco No. 11 A-Mix Stoneware white clay. Because it's my first time trying these glazes, I chose to use planters with saucers attached, so if the Flux glazes run more than I expect them to, the saucer will catch the runny glaze. Plus, I happen to have 6 planters ready to glaze. Glaze the saucer and the inside of the planter about an inch down to see how the glaze will flow. Let this dry and apply a second coat. I'm brushing the second coat on vertically. Allow the brush to sweep over the surface of the planter gently. This technique allows the glaze to settle evenly and smoothly. Let this dry and apply a third coat. This time horizontally. I like these planters with the built-in saucers. Plus they're fun to make. I have a video on how to make a planter with the attached saucer. I left a link for you below in the show notes. Let this dry and apply one more coat of glaze. The fourth coat I'm applying vertically. Because this glaze is also on the thin side, I want to make sure the glaze is thick enough to flow. This glaze does flow nicely onto the planter. Let this dry and put it in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. And let's see the final result. This Amaco Moss Mist Flux is beautiful. The glaze creates a stunning cream and green molten effect on this piece. I love how the green molten spots flow down the pot to create this unique visual effect. Another interesting thing about this glaze is how the flux develops a peachy float where it's thicker. This creates a beautiful contrast between the cream and green spots, adding depth and dimension to the pottery piece. The glaze stopped flowing on the inside and just pooled at the end, which is good to know when you're using this glaze. Overall, I think this Moss Mist glaze is a must-have for any potter looking to create a unique, eye-catching piece. The cream with green spots make it a stunning glaze. The third glaze is Honeydew. I can mix this glaze in my drink mixer. Having the ability to mix these glazes in the bottle is great. Brush the first glaze on horizontally. This planter is made with Amaco warm stoneware clay. Glaze the saucer and on the inside to see if the honeydew will run or stay stable. Let this dry. The second coat will be vertical to prevent any streaking. I have a video on 21 tips for brush glazing that can be helpful. I also have an article on 27 glazing tips on my Pottery Crafters website. It's loaded with information. If you can't find what you're looking for, let me know. I left the links for you in the show notes below. Let this dry and brush on another coat. The third coat will be horizontal. Because this glaze is on the thin side as the other 2 fluxes were, if I load up my brush too much, the glaze will drip. Get the saucer and the inside of the planter. I want to glaze the inside of the rim anyway because the dirt in the planter won't go all the way to the rim. And it looks nicer. Set this aside and let it dry for one more coat of glaze. A fourth and final glaze vertically. This glaze has a smooth and consistent texture, which makes it easy to apply with a brush. Light and smooth brush strokes. I'm looking forward to seeing the results. Let this dry and put it in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. And let's see the final result. This glaze is a beautiful shimmering pale green. I like the way the flux develops a peachy float where the glaze is thicker. I think this effect adds depth and character to the pottery piece. The honeydew flux glaze also looks good on the warm brown clay. I think this glaze can be used on a variety of clay colors. I noticed on this glaze also, the glaze stopped at the bottom of the glaze line. I recommend the honeydew flux glaze for any potter looking to create a beautiful glossy finish with this beautiful light green shade and the peachy float. Let's check out the next Amaco Flux glaze. The fourth flux glaze I'm trying is Midnight Run. I can mix this glaze in my drink mixer because it has no crystals. Brush on the first coat horizontally. This planter was made with Amaco No. 11 A-Mix Stoneware white clay. The consistency of this glaze is the same as the last three, so I'll be applying 4 coats. Glaze the inside to see how the glaze will flow. Let this dry and apply a second coat vertically. I'm going to make another video on these Amaco Flux glazes to see how they look when I pour them on mugs and brush them on flat surfaces. Let this dry and apply a third coat horizontally. I'm also going to do a video on layering other glazes with these new flux glazes to see the unique and interesting effects I can create and give you some glazing ideas. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when the new videos come out. Let this dry and one last coat vertically. This glaze is smooth and goes on nicely. I'm looking forward to layering with these glazes. I'm a big fan of layering glazes. I have a video on testing other Amaco glaze combinations. The video can inspire you to experiment with layering glazes and explore the possibilities of different glaze combinations. I left a link for you below to check out. Let this dry and put it in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. And let's see the final result. I'm impressed. This Midnight Flux is a beautiful glaze. I love the soft, smooth blue-gray denim look it creates. The finish is reminiscent of a pair of well-worn denim jeans with a soft texture that feels smooth to the touch. The glaze did remain stable on the inside of the planter. This is good to know when you're brushing on 4 coats. I love this glaze. I'm looking forward to trying it on a textured surface in my next video. The blue-gray color is both subtle and striking, which adds depth and dimension to the planter. Let's check out the next Amaco Flux glaze. The next flux glaze I'm trying is Cirrus Flow. I can mix this glaze with my drink mixer also. Start out brushing horizontally. This planter was made with Standard Clay Company red clay. Let it dry. A second coat vertically. This glaze also has a nice texture like the other fluxes and honey flux. I love honey flux. I've gone through many pints. I hope they start selling it in gallons soon. I do have a video where I pour and dip 2 honey flux combinations. I left a link below and on the end screen for you to check out. Let it dry and apply a third coat horizontally. So far I've noticed all these glazes have the same consistency. I've also noticed that they have that shimmery look like honey flux. Let this dry and apply a 4th and final coat vertically. Don't apply too much pressure to your brush. Let the glaze glide off the brush. Let this dry and put it in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how the Cirrus Flow turned out. Wow, I have to say the Cirrus Flow glaze is beautiful. I like how the pale blue color of the glaze interacted with the red clay underneath. The combination of the two colors works well. Another aspect of the Cirrus Flow is the way it develops a peachy float where the glaze is thicker. This creates a beautiful contrast between the light blue, the peachy tones, and the red clay underneath. This glaze also stopped on the inside and pooled at the bottom of the glaze line. I think it's safe to say that these Flux glazes don't run as much as the Amaco seaweed or the blue rutile. I'm looking forward to seeing how these glazes interact with other glazes. Let's check out the next Amaco Flux glaze. The sixth and final Flux glaze I'm trying is River Birch. I can't use the drink mixer with this glaze because of the crystals, so I'll have to shake it. With this glaze, I'm going to apply the first coat vertically. This planter was made with Amaco No. 11 Amix Stoneware white clay. Apply the glaze lightly so the crystals adhere to the side of the planter. Stir the glaze from the bottom occasionally to ensure the crystals don't float to the bottom. Let the glaze dry and apply a second coat, this time horizontally. It's important to apply the glaze evenly. You can see the dark brown crystals in this glaze as opposed to the moss mist. You can't even see the green crystals in the glaze, they're so small. Let this dry and apply a third coat of River Birch, vertically. Because the River Birch glaze can create a different effect with the crystals, I'm only going to apply 3 coats to see how it runs down the planter. Let this dry and put it in the kiln to cone 5 with a 20-minute hold. Let's see how it turned out. River Birch is a beautiful, unique glaze. The creamy glaze also has the peachy hue where the glaze is thicker. What makes this glaze so cool looking is the way it creates the runny streaks that really look like a birch tree. This effect is stunning and can add a natural feel to any piece. This is a fluid glaze that moves in the kiln, but as you can see on the inside, it pooled at the end just like the rest of the Flux glazes, but it didn't flow past the glaze line. I really like this River Birch glaze. I think it can be used for those looking to add a touch of nature to their pottery. There you have it, all of the new 6 Flux glazes. I did notice that all of the Flux glazes had the peachy hue to them where the glazes were thicker, and they all stopped running at the glaze line, even the River Birch. Now I don't know if they'll run if you apply the glazes thicker than these. I'm loving the natural look of the River Birch. It really does look like a birch tree. And the molten spots on the moss mist are really cool. I'm also loving the Flux Blossom. This shade of pink with a touch of peach is beautiful. I love the shade of green that the Honeydew Flux produces, and the peachy hue enhances it. And the Cirrus Flow produces these beautiful light blue colors with that touch of peach. The Midnight Run has a cool, soft denim look to it. They should have called it denim blue. Which ones do you like the best? In my next video, I'll be testing out glazes on flat surfaces and pouring the glazes on mugs. So don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when the next video comes out. You watching helps me to make more videos like this one. Now head on over to my pour and dip glaze combination video, or this testing 12 glazes kiln opening video. If you do, I get to play with more clay. Let's stay dirty